Here we go. And welcome to your Monday edition of the Athletic Hockey Show. It's Ian Mendes and Julian MacKenzie with you exactly 1 week before Christmas Day, which makes me wonder if Julian MacKenzie has done his Christmas shopping. 7 days till the 25th.
I am proud to say I am 90% of the way done. I don't know how you do your Christmas shopping. I like to order gifts and have them shipped over to my house. But obviously, since I moved from Montreal, what I do is I order them and then have them shipped over to my parents' place. And then I go home for Christmas and I deal with all the wrapping and bagging. And then we all enjoy Christmas. This year's going to be a bit weird because I'm just going to be with my mom and the rest of my family's in the Caribbean this time around. So the rest of my family's going to have to only see their presents after I leave, essentially, and when they get back. But essentially, that's how it goes. I'm 90% of the way through. I might have to do like I might have to find one or two more gifts, but I'm pretty much done.
You know what I love is that you said that you're in charge of wrapping your gifts and bagging them, because we all know it's a gift bag. Don't act like you're wrapping.
You're right. You're right. I've done it. I just would much prefer to use a gift bag.
Bags.
We're
made for us.
Yes, that's fair. I mean, I don't know. You get a gift bag. You get your I completely blanked on the name of the tissue paper. You just put it in the bag, wrap it around a little bit. Oh. It's nice. It's easy. It's simple.
Easy. Exactly. It's the way to go. So yeah.
Are you done your shopping?
Yeah, like 90, same like you, 90% of it. I got to go get some stocking stuffers. That's all I have left.
Okay. All right. That's cool. At least
that's left. All right. So 1 week till Christmas. Can I start with this, because I had to kind of write a rage column Sunday night as Ottawa lost again.
You got to stop. You got to stop for one moment, because between that and some other columns you've been writing last week, you have been on fire, my man.
Wow.
You have been on fire.
Let's
Your hand must be hurting.
Let's not even get into the anthem thing. Let's look at. We're 7 days out from Christmas.
Yes.
I want to know, if you're Ottawa, can you change out the coach, or are you now in the Christmas window?
Oh, man. I don't know, man. Like, I thought there were so many other instances where they would have fired DJ Smith. But now they're losers of 4 in a row. They're how many games behind everyone else because of the way their schedule's set? Management, it still seems, and I know you brought it up on different points, but they're more patient compared to what the fans have endured, which is such a fascinating difference between those two worlds. I would be surprised if they let him go. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do, but considering what management has projected and the confidence they've thrown on DJ Smith, I would be surprised if they went through with it. It would tell me that all of the outside noise and the pressure would have finally gotten to them. And I'm also curious about what the players think too, right? I don't, unless you would know better than anybody else, but I don't know if the players have completely tuned him out or if they want him gone. That plays a role in this too.
No, I don't think that they've tuned him out or they want him gone. I just don't think that everything's clicking right now. And you lose 4 games in a row last week. Like, what do you want? Like, I don't know what else there is to say. I really don't. I've written about it. It's exhausting. I think it's unfair to DJ Smith, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's unfair to DJ Smith. Like this guy has become a piñata in the marketplace, and everyone gets a swing. And at some point, they got to take care of that. And that's not on me and the media. That's not on the fan base. That's on them not winning games. And you've put him in an uncomfortable position where the next time they play at home is on Saturday against Pittsburgh. I don't want to hear people chanting for his 2 days before Christmas to fire him. That's to me, that's inhumane. That's not cool. But I don't blame the fans for being super frustrated. I just look, and I want to say one thing. Nobody in the Senators organization, Julian, has treated me personally with more respect and dignity than DJ Smith in the last 5 years. And at some point, I am going to tell some stories about the way that guy treated me, because he deserves a lot of credit for being a good human being. He really does, but it's not working right now. And I say that with the utmost respect for him. Like, I now worry about him as a human being, Julian. It, it's not fair. Like, he's become a piñata on social media, and I don't like that, because he's better. He deserves more than that. And those players have let him down. And I know that part of this is coaching and tactics. I get it. But those players, remember when Kachuk and Giroux and everybody came out in defense of the coach? Julian,
earlier this year.
3 of 11 games since then. Like, if you love the guy, then play for him. But don't, like, this is on DJ, but it's on the players too. Like, it's on everybody. Like anyway, that's my rant. Why I came out of the gates hot here.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, you've had that one on your chest for a while. So if you're Ottawa Senators management, do something about it. If you think DJ Smith is the guy and you're able to recognize that the players are not playing for DJ, do something with that core of players that you are capable of doing. If you feel that strongly about it, make that change. The easy thing to do in any of those situations is to let go of the head coach. You could be different and make a shakeup with your roster. But it also, I don't know. It just, I still would be very surprised considering what management has projected out there with DJ Smith and their confidence in him, and just with this team as a whole, if they did anything, at least now, especially around Christmas. Like, I'd be very surprised.
And by the way, we're streaming this live here, and Steve says DJ's not going to be let go before a general manager has landed, and that could absolutely be the case. But I guess my point is, we've reached a pressure point here, and at various times in the year, Julian, different teams are the one where things are boiling over. It was San Jose at one point. It was Edmonton at one point. This feel, and we're going to talk to Jay Caufield about this in a few minutes, but it's been Pittsburgh a couple times. It's Ottawa again. Like, this isn't the first time it's boiled over. And it's interesting, because I said, can you terminate someone at Christmas in the Christmas window, or does that give off like Ebenezer Scrooge vibes? And Jeff Damet, our producer, says, don't forget Lou Lamoriello did it. And he says it was the day after Christmas with Pete DeBoer. I think he did it 2 times, Julian. Did he not fire John? And maybe we can get Jeff, our producer, or Danielle just to double check this, because I guess I could have Googled this while you were speaking, but I wanted to listen to what you were saying. But I think he fired John McClain like 2 days before Christmas, because I remember thinking, oh my God, if you Google search John McClain and Christmas, Die Hard is not going to be the first thing that comes up. It's going to be, I think he fired John McClain like December 22nd.
December 23rd, 2010, the Devils, this is off of Wikipedia, the Devils had a 9-22-2 record. They were last place in the Eastern Conference. John McClain was fired 2 days before Christmas.
At Christmas time. The all-time Die Hard guy.
Wow.
And wait, and then he also
with Lou Lamoriello.
And then he did DeBoer on Boxing Day?
That's insane. Dang. Well, at least he had after Christmas. But like, I either forgot or just never realized that Lou Lamoriello just does not care for Yuletide pastimes and Christmas times with one another.
It's just dawning on you now that he might be a little bit calculated and cold, hey?
That's not what I said. There are other things that have already revealed that. I just didn't know there was a Christmas tinge to it.
Let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum, shall we? We go from Ottawa, and again, we're going to talk about Pittsburgh here in a few minutes with Jay Caufield, who does a terrific job as kind of the pre and post game host on Penguins TV in Pittsburgh. And we got a lot to get to with them. But let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Talk about some teams that are playing well. And boy, Nate MacKinnon is going off right now. What's it? 15 games, right? 15-game point streak for Nate. If I gave Julian MacKenzie his Hart Trophy ballot today, middle of December, who's the first name? Who's going to the top of your list? Right, like today. I don't care about what you think might happen in 3 months. I want to know today who's getting your vote.
Today. Right now, this minute. I wrote a whole column on how Nikita Kucherov's overlooked. I would have probably put him number one, but it's really difficult to go against Nathan MacKinnon, and the fact that he's just this unstoppable force of nature. Here's something that I don't know if it's a controversial thing to say.
Yeah.
As much as I love watching Connor McDavid play and the speed and the scoring ability, just he could do so many great things. There are times where I enjoy watching Nathan MacKinnon just as much because it feels as if every time he has the puck and he has a full head of steam, I just feel like he's going to run somebody over. And we've seen it time and time again, whether it's a regular season game or in the playoffs. Nathan MacKinnon's motor is unlike anyone else in the league, and he's proven he's a winner, and he has done everything he can to establish himself as a top 3 player in this league. We rave and rant so much about Connor McDavid and everything he's done and all the accolades he's won now and all the accolades he's sure to win in the future. And one day he may get that Stanley Cup. But we have a guy, Nathan MacKinnon, who's done the hard work already, and he wants more. He craves more. And that's what makes him so interesting and so fascinating. And of course, he'll end up on Hart Trophy ballots, and he may very well end up with a Hart Trophy when it's all said and done, especially since Colorado is a cup contending team. And even though they might not necessarily be the best team in the NHL right now, at least their odds to be a Stanley Cup champion, I mean, depending on where you look at, they're looking like the favorites right now. Yeah. And Nathan MacKinnon is very much at the forefront of that. So, I mean, I'll say this to officially answer your question. Maybe it's a bit of a cop out for me to say that, like, I really need to think about this a little bit more, but like Nathan MacKinnon's on the ballot for sure. We're all kind of expecting that Connor McDavid will put his team firmly in a playoff position by season's end. So it's possible that if he finishes the job, he might get that one up. But MacKinnon, Kucherov, McDavid for sure there. Quinn Hughes is probably there. Cale Makar. There was talk about Cale Makar for the Hart Trophy too, right? I think it's those 5 players. It's probably Makar, Hughes, Kucherov, MacKinnon, and McDavid. I think we have the 5.
Oh man, yeah, and you're right. The Kucherov stuff that you bring up is like, it's so on point. How is a guy who's a 2-time Stanley Cup winner, who he's going to the Hall of Fame. He's got a 128-point season on his resume. Like, he's won all these things before. How is he just off the radar? But he is. He's off the radar.
He is. Like, I'm still thinking about it over the weekend. He was in Calgary in the locker room. And, like, I'm walking in and I see Steven Stamkos.
Yeah, you got what a great
another
quote.
Corner. And oh God, Victor Hedman's in another corner. And you're like, wow, you have all these great players. And Nikita Kucherov's just there at his stall. He just sneaks in. Yeah. I had a funny moment with Greg Millen, who is an analyst for Hockey Night in Canada, and he was trying to go over to talk to Kucherov, and I was trying to go over too. He's like, "Oh, I'm trying to talk to him one-on-one," and we kind of laughed at each other, just be like, "Oh, we're obviously trying to talk to him and whatever." And I let him get his moment, and I turn around and Kucherov's just gone. He vanishes. Like, he's this quiet superstar, and there are guys in that locker room who recognize him as such, but like, when you look in that locker room that day ahead of that Flames Lightning game, everyone wanted to talk to Steven Stamkos. There were so many other players in that room that got those scrums, but Kucherov, for whatever reason, he wasn't feeling it, and he didn't get that attention. And he should be getting that attention. He's projected to have numbers better than that 128-point MVP season. He's unreal right now. And John Cooper himself saying that he feels he's having a better year than his MVP year. Like that, like, I don't know. John Cooper, I get it. He's biased and he admitted as such, but for him to say that, I don't think that's something you just sneeze at. That's really, really remarkable. And that's why I had to write that column.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely bang on. Real quick, Shayna Goldman has a column up today that you talk about Nikita Kucherov, Julian, being on pace for a better season than he had when he won the Art Ross and the Hart Trophy and all that stuff with the Lightning a couple years ago. It's the exact opposite for Alex Ovechkin. Shayna Goldman with the piece looking at Alex Ovechkin. It feels like what I'm about to say is a mistake, a typo, whatever. 15 goals, 1-5 this season. Does this start to really make you feel like that the Gretzky record is now it's in jeopardy. Like it was a foregone conclusion 6 months ago that he was going to chase it down as early as next season. Now do we start to wonder that it even happens? Is it fair to wonder if it even happens?
I think so. I mean, I don't know exactly what pace he'd need to be on for the rest of the year and next year to get to that point, but we kind of assumed that the Washington Capitals would just be this vessel for Ovechkin to chase history. And we're seeing a player who has slowed. I think you had made a mistake with saying 5 goals. 15 goals he's on pace for. Like
he's on exactly.
Sorry,
he's on pace.
I misunderstood that.
Yeah.
I misunderstood that. But that's insane. Like the idea of him scoring 15 goals in a season. Can you guess off the top of your head what's the lowest amount of goals he scored?
He kind of dipped in that. Does this include that lockout 2012-2013 season? Like, because that was kind of in the depths for him,
I'm debating not including those because that doesn't really
so if you
count,
don't
right?
include, if you
so
don't
2012,
include
2013. So let's exclude that.
He was
year
in the low 30s a couple times, was he not? Like 30. I'm gonna say 35.
Okay.
34.
So let's exclude 2012, 2013, where that was a half year. We can exclude 2020, 2021 because that was 56 games.
Yeah.
And
is it like 34, 35 goals? Like it's somewhere in that neighborhood, right?
So 2010, 2011, he scored 32 goals and 85 points in 79 games. Unless I'm missing another.
I think that's right, because that was right in the window where we were like, oh my gosh, he's falling off a cliff. He'll never get it back. And then he had how many more? My goodness, he probably had 5 more Rocket Richard trophies after that or whatever he had.
Oh my God. But like Alexander Ovechkin, I kind of assumed that it would just be all about him getting the record. And to see him be on pace for 15 goals is, that's really the beginning of the end. All the while, as we're talking about Alexander Ovechkin not playing up to the standard we know him, the Washington Capitals are in a playoff spot as we speak. So 2 weird things are going on where the Capitals are relevant to the point where they're fighting for a wild card spot, and Alexander Ovechkin's goal scoring prowess does not play a crucial role in that.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's connect with somebody who knows all about Alex Ovechkin. And you think about that great rivalry here between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring him in. He does a terrific job as a pre- and post-game analyst, Pens TV in Pittsburgh. We say hello to Jay Caufield on this Monday. Jay, how are you?
Good, guys. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, listen, thanks for doing this. Reason why we wanted to get you on is that, the Penguins, when you think about a team in Pittsburgh losing by a touchdown on a weekend, your mind automatically goes to the Steelers.
Right.
It's the Penguins. So 7-0 in Toronto, Jay. Rock bottom?
Yeah, that was a bad, guys. Again, in Toronto, Kyle Dubas' first time back into Toronto. Not a good night. And it was a mix of everything from, they had the Father's trip and a good little run to get it all going. And then they go into Toronto, and from the very get-go, they just didn't have their game. And Toronto was minus Matthews and a number of defensemen were just a much better team. And they made it just so many odd man breaks. It's a theme that's gone throughout the year. And when they're playing good hockey, then that doesn't happen. When they're a little off their game, it just turns on them quickly. And that's what it was like the other night.
Obviously, the Pittsburgh Penguins not playing up to standard. They're at a .500 record, but one big thing we thought would work out would be their power play. You acquire Erik Karlsson from San Jose, and you already have the big 3 you have. This team should be dynamite when it comes to their power play. They're in the bottom third of the league in that regard. Why is that?
Their power play has been, we know they went on a streak to see it. When they got there, first of all, they weren't getting a lot of looks on the power play to start off with. Then with Karlsson and Letang, they were trying to figure that right mix. I think they just couldn't find it. They just couldn't find whether Letang be with it or not. They started with Karlsson as the number 1 guy and manning the point, which is why they brought him in. But they just weren't getting pucks to the net. They don't have traffic in front. And then that was a snowball effect. They just didn't, never found this way. Then they came back with Letang and Karlsson on the same unit. They gave up opportunities off of that to the opposition. there was nothing wrong good until a couple games ago. They just kind of seem to simplify it. And we know, we always talk about it. They're the guys out there, the players to a man, they're all outstanding. They're some of the greatest players to play the game. And they just weren't getting pucks to the net. And I said, no traffic. They seemed to be easy when they were aggressive on them. They just didn't find the plays. They had bad zone entries, no shots through, retrieval, it's just not there. So finally they got out of it, though, a little bit. And I think hopefully they can right the ship. But the Toronto night was something that was they rolled back a little bit.
I mean, we're talking about the power play here. And I'm also just wondering, at even strength, what's the fit been like with Karlsson, Jay? Like, I mean, you're bringing in somebody with 100 points, the Norris Trophy. Like Julian said, we figured this thing was going to be off and running. So even if we remove the power play and maybe the awkward fit there, how do we see 65 fitting in at even strength?
You know, their 5-on-5 play, before even Karlsson, to talk about Karlsson, Crosby line has been outstanding 5-on-5, and the team as a whole, a lot of plus players. You don't see the minus players in their lineup. So 5-on-5, they've been outstanding. And I think Karlsson, he's been with Pettersson. That's a perfect balance. Now, you might see a switch tonight, right? Because Graves and Letang, that hasn't been working. They just haven't found, maybe Graves has not found his stride with Chris Letang. So you might see a shakeup in the deep pairings. But Pettersson with Karlsson has been very good because Pettersson has been one of their best, if not their best blue liners so far this year. And I think as you go back on the power play, guys, I think if we talked about Karlsson's numbers, his point total, even though he's over 100 points which is amazing and outstanding, he didn't have a lot of those points on the power play. It was a lot of even strength numbers. So, hey, listen, he's up in the play. He's dynamic. Pettersson's been the perfect partner with them. 5-on-5, they've been doing their thing. But when it comes back, as we go back to the power play, where everybody thought it was going to take off, it just hasn't happened. So the Penguins 5-on-5, their game has been very good. But power play has brought them down. And you don't want to think like one phase of the game can do it, but they have had the power play opportunities to tie a game or to take the lead or extend their lead. They're the ones that have been killers, man, because they just haven't been able to do it. They allow the team to catch up, or they don't get the tying goal, and they're losing points because of it. So let's hope they're kind of finding that little mix of getting pucks to the net and traffic to change that.
Big picture question for you, Jay. Yeah. If this team continues to play at the rate that they're at, again, I mentioned they're at a 500 record, but they're well out of a playoff spot.
Yeah.
What do you think Kyle Dubas does with this roster? What do you think he does with his coaching staff? What is the big picture view for the Penguins if this season just doesn't work out?
Yeah, this is a real good question, because I would think even Mike Sullivan interviewed after the game. I don't think anything's off the table as far as what they may need or what they can do. First of all, they're kind of handcuffed. The cap situation, what it's done to GMs in the game today, so different, right? You don't have the freedom just to do anything. The cap is a big part of it. But Kyle, I don't believe, again, if they didn't come away with those 2 wins and then you lost 7-0 to Toronto the other night, it would be a real tough thing here over the weekend into the night. But still being that, I think Mike Sullivan's not going anywhere. He's re-upped, but I do think something across the board, something's got to happen, because the fan base, number one, can't stand for it. And number two, I don't believe Kyle Dubas is a guy that's going to stand pat. Also, you can't continue to fall down. I think this team, with the talent that they have in the years that are remaining on their superstar talent, they've got to find some mix. And the shakeup is always, in the game of hockey, more than any other sport I've seen. Doesn't happen in football, but in hockey, for example, the Steelers can't do anything here in Pittsburgh, but in hockey, when there's a shakeup, that usually jumpstarts something. And again, I don't know what it's going to be. I think the players themselves are the ones that aren't really performing to what I think is expected from their coaching staff. Young guys get opportunities. They can't sustain their play, and it's been a problem. So they're looking at their depth, and I'm not sure what Kyle Dubas can do, but I do believe something's going to happen if they don't have a good night tonight and turn it around a little bit. There's going to be more of that talk, guys. Right to your point.
It's interesting, Jay, because you mentioned that in your estimation, even we heard Kyle Dubas say this a few days ago.
Yep.
Mike Sullivan's safe, that this isn't a Mike Sullivan problem. But I mean, what are you seeing out of the coaching? Like, I guess maybe the question is, like, why do you think the coaching staff is safe, so to speak, here?
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, we all know, from as long as we've been around the game, you go on a run of not making the playoffs, or you get into playoffs and you don't win series, and then you don't make the playoffs, and you're going a number of years. You're usually looking at a different staff. That's just the way it's always going to seem and be. This has been Mike Sullivan, the players, to a man, everybody, what they've done together has been outstanding. At some point, always the voice is a voice falling, on deaf ears. Is it they're not listening to the message anymore? I think when Kyle Dubas came out and wanted to shut that talk down, probably the right thing to do. Does that mean everybody on the staff is safe? I would say not, guys. I just something has to change. And as I said, when you go 4 or 5 years without success in the playoffs, especially here in Pittsburgh, with what you have here, it's something that everybody's expecting something to happen. And I'm not, I don't, again, I think it falls on the players of what they're doing, but we all know after a while, there's a timeline, right? And the voice, if it goes flat, it goes flat. And the players, they need to respond tonight. If we see a flat game tonight, then I think the conversation is going to really ramp up. It's in some form, but something's going to have to change. And it does. I believe it won't be Mike Sullivan, but something internally could change, or some move. Because I said I don't think anything is not on the table to make a move to change what's going on here in Pittsburgh.
Fascinating that you say that, but also I'm thinking with Mike as well. I mean, his first 2 years as head coach wins Stanley Cups with Pittsburgh, and it's not as if he hasn't brought his team to the playoffs or hasn't seen some kind of success in the regular season anyway. But do you think that says that in a world where coaches feel so disposable, especially in the NHL, that Mike's been able to still hold on to his position as head coach with his team?
Yeah, I just think that's, again, another great point. Look at even Craig Berube, with St. Louis. I mean, you look at your roster. Is it Craig Berube's fault that the team, there's nobody with more heart and had played with more fire? And I believe he coached the same way. Coaches, they're vulnerable. They all understand it when they get into that profession. I think, though, as we know and we've seen over the years, you can tell when players aren't responding. And if that's what they see, then it changed. But I think Mike Sullivan has the fire. What Pittsburgh people love that about him, and the players respond to that. Now it's been flat for a little bit here, and it's not Sidney Crosby, and that kind of like it's when you go down the ladder, they're not getting what they need. I do think, though, that you have to do something. Something has to change. You can't stand pat. And for me to say it's not going to be Mike Sullivan, because I don't. The ownership group loves him. GM loves them, and the players, they all have the same belief and faith in them. They have to turn it around. They feel they need to turn around themselves. But I will say, in any other situation, if I looked across the league, when you see it going flat, something's going to change. And it's not. And that's why coaches are so vulnerable. They're probably sending a message, but they're just not getting the results. And is that on your team? Is that on which you're able to put on the product you can put on the ice? Right now, Kyle Dubas' hands are tied. He brought in players to be difference makers, and when it started to change and be on the positive, there's injuries. So they need the guys who have been brought in need to pick it up. That goes from everybody, as we talked about, Carlson, the fit, Graves, all that. Graves hasn't found his stride. Carlson, as a whole, we know power play, they haven't found their stride. So they haven't stepped up for what Kyle Dubas is expecting, what the Penguins expect, and let's hope they turn around. They need a good outing here tonight, or you guys will probably be hearing a lot more going on in Pittsburgh if they don't have that good outing.
You know what's remarkable, Jay? We've spent 10, 12 minutes where we're talking about the Penguins.
Yep.
We haven't mentioned the goaltending. And this is what's remarkable. It's actually been good. And I think if you think about Pittsburgh the last 4 or 5 years, you think about the instability, right? Inconsistency from Matt Murray, inconsistency from Jari. But it's been good, hasn't it, this year?
Yeah, it really has been, guys. The other night, Toronto was just that's the way it went. But for the most part, I believe the tandem together, Nedeljkovic and Jari together, are in the top 5, maybe top 4, if you will, as far as save percentage and goals against average. They have given the Penguins the opportunity to win games each and every night. Now, there's been a little hiccup early in the year, but together combined, they've been very good. Hellberg stepped in for a couple games and was very good as well. So, Kyle Dubas rode Tristan Jarry. He went with them, signed him to a contract, and that's looking like a good move right now, because across the board, I believe the numbers are just down across the board with goaltenders, their goals against, their save percentage, whatever it might be. But the Penguins have been solid in that area. And again, they have 2 goaltenders that are very similar in the way that they handle the puck, man, because it's from one goaltender to another one. The Penguins D don't have to feel that difference. They handle the puck extremely well. They're like a third D back there. They move it. They set it up for them perfectly. So they're very good, but they've been outstanding enough. And that's really, you have the Penguins around that 500 number. The goaltending has been very good to do that. And as I said, they've given away, there's been a lot of games that got away from them, as we talked about, the power play. Special teams hasn't been able to keep up with what they need to do. That's why it's been such a big topic. The penalty killers have been very good. A little slide the last little bit, but we know your goaltender has to be the key part to it, and they have been that.
Hey, Jay, before we let you go, real quick, you talked about a game on Monday night. It's possibly Marc-Andre Fleury's last visit to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it is, and I know Mark has, Marc-Andre has kind of talked about this. This might be it for him. What's going to be the feeling inside that arena if they show him on the Jumbotron, if they kind of have a moment with him in Pittsburgh tonight?
Yeah. He's a beloved athlete here, guys. He's and it seems everywhere, wherever he goes, he has that personality. The fans, I'm sure, will be, so I think they're going to feel lucky they're in the building and get a chance to watch him play. That's how much they loved and cared about the athlete. And there's so many in Pittsburgh. Again, it's a city that's sports oriented, and they love their Steelers, they love the Pirates, and they love the Penguins. And the success with the great players that have been here, the fans let them know it. Marc-Andre Fleury will always be considered one of the best to ever come through here. And I'm sure they're going to let him know that tonight. And I think as an athlete, I don't think there's anything much better than that, whether you're admiration from your peers, the fan base, the respect that you would have from that. I think everybody has that for him. I think he's one of the best personalities to come through the game. And the Penguins fans and everybody here have been lucky enough to see him be a part of it. So when he comes back, I expect it to be a really great evening for himself. And besides the game, what we talked about, then they're going to hope the Penguins get to him. But I think it's going to show a lot of respect and love for Marc-Andre Fleury there tonight.
Should be a special night in Pittsburgh, and never a dull moment around the Penguins. Jay, thanks so much for dropping by the pod, because the Penguins are absolutely one of the most fascinating teams in the league, and we certainly appreciate your analysis on them.
Hey guys, great to talk to you too.
All right, pleasure. There he goes, Jay Caufield, Stanley Cup champion with the Pittsburgh Penguins, does a great job.
That was awesome.
He was really great post-game analyst. Yeah, that was a ton of fun, and it's an easy segue too, because we're talking about Marc-Andre Fleury, we're talking about goaltending. Why don't we bring him in? Netstradamus.
Let's go.
Jesse Granger. It's our guy.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. It's a good morning for you, because the two teams that we cover played each other Sunday night. And I actually legit straight up thought, oh my God, Jesse Granger is going to play in that game.
Yeah, it was getting close. It was getting,
hey, seriously,
it was not looking good. Logan Thompson, obviously Adin Hill goes out in the very beginning. He hadn't played in a long time. He comes in, and it only took a couple saves, and he wasn't looking right, and he leaves the game very early. Logan Thompson comes in, and then in the third period with about 13 minutes left, he went down awkwardly, and it was pretty clear watching it that he was injured, or at least hurt. I guess we shouldn't say injured. There's a difference, but he was hurt. He went over to the bench and was shaking his right leg, and kind of testing it out in front of the trainer. He ended up toughing it out and finishing the game. They didn't need the e-bug, but he was definitely dressed, and I can imagine nervous in the back when he saw Logan Thompson down on the ice injured. But yeah, we talked to Bruce Cassidy after the game, and he said he doesn't think Logan Thompson's injury is serious. So it does sound like Vegas is going to at least have him going forward. But yeah, Adin Hill, who knows how long he's going to be out now that he re-injured that after missing a bunch of time. So some question marks in net for the Golden Knights moving forward.
Free story idea for you, Jesse.
All right.
You should find some like semi-pro team or whatever level team you could find and join them as an e-bug.
Yeah, and just
live,
like a first person experience when I get lit up. Yeah, I mean, if there are any semi-pro general managers listening to this right now, I'm open to this. Yes. So far, nobody's knocking down my door for me to play goalie for them. But if there's anyone out there that would like me to write about a story about me giving up a bunch of goals, I'm in for it.
Just in all seriousness, I think it would be a great idea. But to focus on the Vegas Golden Knights, what have you made of Jack Eichel's play? 10-game point streak for him.
Yeah, broke the franchise record, the long and storied history of the Golden Knights. But yeah, he's been amazing. He's been so good all over the ice. He's probably been their best defensive forward, which is crazy to say because Mark Stone is amazing. But Eichel's speed and more so than speed, it's just his acceleration. His first couple steps are unbelievable, and it allows him to close on guys when on the back check or on the penalty kill. He's been one of their best penalty killers, and he's just using, like, this guy's been so physically talented his whole career. He's finally using all of those attributes to be good everywhere, and he's dominating in the defensive zone. He's dominating in the neutral zone, where if the puck's on his stick, he's so good at transporting it. Like, there is no failed exit once you get the puck to Jack Eichel. The puck's the other way. It's a scoring chance the other way immediately after. He's just been really, really good for this team. He's the best player on the ice most nights, and he's starting to show a little bit of leadership too. Bruce Cassidy, after the game last night, was talking about Eichel, and he said, you know what I really liked about him tonight was he was vocal early in the game, and Vegas started that game flat. They did score early, but early on they weren't playing all that well. They had some turnovers to Ottawa, which looked a lot like the game against Buffalo that they lost a couple nights before, and Eichel was dragging them along. I mean, he was driving the bus, and on the bench, he was encouraging guys. He was basically saying, this isn't acceptable. This is not our style of play. Let's get it going, guys. So we're starting to see more and more out of Jack Eichel as he gets comfortable here in Vegas. I think, to me right now, he should be up there. His points aren't quite up there with MacKinnon and Kucherov, but I think when you factor in how good he's been defensively and how the team's winning, I think Eichel should be at least in the conversation for Hart. Not one of the favorites, but he should at least be in the conversation right now.
Yeah, it's great. You know, Julian and I were talking about that. And look, you make a compelling case for Eichel to be on there. And I'll tell you, I watched that whole game yesterday, the Ottawa-Vegas game. Eichel reminded me of the way he used to play at his peak in Buffalo. Just super confident, super aggressive, like just a ton of the guy oozes. I love this. Like, I love him on the ice. I think he oozes confidence. And when he's going, and right now he is. So that was, that was great to see on Sunday night with Eichel kind of being back to 100%. So we love having you on to chat all things goaltending, Jesse. And let's start in Carolina, where there's kind of, I guess, multiple goalie angles going on here with the Hurricanes. Good news is Freddie Anderson looks like there's a path to him to coming back from that blood clot, but he's still probably a few weeks away. But they put Antti Ranta on waivers. He clears. Aaron Dell is now apparently getting the PTO. Like that's the one thing, Jesse, that I think is holding back Carolina from really maybe getting to the Stanley Cup final. How do you view the Hurricanes goaltending situation right now?
Yeah, I view all the movement, the waving and the claiming and all that is just, it seems like a desperation last ditch effort. We have to do something. The goaltending has been, to call it horrific, it's not even, that doesn't even go far enough. This goaltending on this team is so bad. Carolina's, to me, their goaltending has held them back for years. I think that in other years it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't as good as it needed to be. And I think that the team in front of them makes their stats look better than they maybe should be for the goalies. I think it's easy to play goalie for Carolina. The way they possess the puck, the way they control it, the way they defend, a lot of shots from the outside. I don't think their goalies have been good enough in past years when they put up okay numbers, and then you get to the playoffs and that's when it really matters. And then the goaltending lets them down. Now it's gone even more extreme. I mean, Carolina's still playing. If you look at their defensive numbers, they're still playing well, and yet they've got one of the worst save percentages in the entire league. I think Freddie Anderson coming back, that gives you some hope because he's gotten it done in the past. I think he can be good enough to at least get them to the playoffs. We'll see what happens once they're there. But right now it's like this team's just in question of, can they hang on and make the playoffs? They've got to get at least league average goaltending. I think if they do, they're a playoff team. But right now, all three of those goalies have not played well at all. And the fact that Freddie Anderson, there's some light at the end of that tunnel, I think gives them some hope. But man, do they need some of the contenders in the East. It is crazy how like New Jersey is kind of in the same situation where that team looks like it's built to win a championship, but the goalies have just been so bad that you wonder if they can overcome it.
It's a good question. Aaron Dell, do you think he does enough to at least just plug things in Carolina? It seems like he's going in on a PTO with that organization.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Like I said, I do think that it's pretty easy to play goalie for Carolina, like relative terms. Like it's not easy, but compared to playing for the Sharks, it's easy. And I think that you see Aiden Hill for Vegas. Aiden Hill was not a highly touted goalie. I mean, he was at one point, but it didn't work out for the Coyotes. Traded him. The Sharks had given up a second-round pick for him. It didn't work out in San Jose. They were going to waive Aiden Hill. Like the Sharks, he was their third best goalie, and then he goes to Vegas in a good goalie-friendly system that gives you predictable shots, that makes things easy on you, and some guys just fit into that and are brilliant. I don't know if Aaron Dell is going to be brilliant for the Carolina, but I wouldn't say there's no chance he's good enough for them. I think he could go in there and be good enough if he fits their system. Like I said, I think they can block some shots, make the teams take some shots from the outside. Don't give up the grade A high dangers on the doorstep, and maybe he's good enough. But it's dire straits in the crease for Carolina right now.
Hey, let's stick with a former Sharks goalie here. You talk about Aaron Dell, Martin Jones. All of a sudden, Jesse is in the goaltending picture for the Leafs. 2 starts, and granted, he's only played 3 games. 2 starts, rocking a 949 save percentage. Here's a question for you right now. If the playoffs started today, game 1, Maple Leafs have a game 1 tonight. Are you rolling out, and again, health is an issue, but Joseph Woll, Ilya Samsonov, or Martin Jones for your game 1?
Well, if you're telling me Joseph Woll's healthy, then it's an easy choice. Joseph Woll. I think he's the best goalie in Toronto by a mile. I think Woll's the best goalie there. But with him hurt right now, that's where, to me, it becomes interesting. Would you go Martin Jones or Ilya Samsonov? I would go with Martin Jones. I just did a story on Samsonov where I watched a bunch of film. His structure is kind of a mess right now. He's not always the most technical goalie. He relies a lot on athleticism, and his hand-eye is fantastic, and he makes some great saves. He's a gamer. He never gives up on a shot, but right now his structure is giving him problems. It has him chasing the play. It has him making saves more difficult on himself than they need to be. And I think Martin Jones, for all of his faults, I think his personality is perfect for playing goalie for the Toronto Maple Leafs because he's just such a calm presence. Like the highs aren't too high, the lows aren't too low. Is he going to go out there and stand on his head and win you a game? Absolutely not. But he's also not going to single-handedly lose you the game. That's just kind of how he is. And on some bad Sharks teams, he did lose games and his stats were awful. But when he's behind a decent team, Martin Jones is very safe to me. That's just, I see him as a very safe option. He's going to be calm back there. And I think that he just is a little bit more what the Toronto Maple Leafs need in terms of style of goalie than Samsonov is right now. So if Woll is not an option, I crazy enough, I think I'd lean Martin Jones. But to me, if Woll's healthy, he's the guy.
Thoughts on Dallas and Jake Ottinger? We know a couple nights ago he leaves a game against Ottawa with a lower body injury. Any thoughts on his situation?
They need him bad. There are a lot of tandems in the league. That's how we're going. Dallas, Ottinger is one of the few workhorses left that, like, if he's healthy, Pete DeBoer gives him all the games. Wedgwood isn't the strongest backup. He's a good, reliable guy that you can count on, but I think that they're one of the few teams that really leans on their starting goalie, and Ottinger, if he's out for long term, Dallas could be in trouble because he's obviously a big piece of that team and they play him a lot. So hopefully he's not out too long, or that could be bad for Dallas.
Let's wrap up, Jesse. And we always have you on the Athletic Hockey Show, courtesy of our friends at BetMGM, the exclusive betting partner with the Athletic. And we're kind of at that point. Julian talked about, he was like, here's my 4 or 5 Hart Trophy nominees. You said that we should put Eichel in the mix. I'm wondering if we look at the Vezina Trophy, Jeremy Swayman of Boston, who, kind of came out of nowhere here last year. If you're looking at the Vezina Trophy right now, where's Jeremy Swayman for you?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't put him as the favorite, but I'd put him as the best value. Right now, he has the 6th best odds at 10-1. So you're getting very good odds, 10-1 on a guy that right now has been one of the best goalies in the league, maybe the best. And it's interesting because last year, both Boston goalies were so good. And I think the majority of people said, well, how good are they actually? Because we haven't seen either of these guys be dominant like this. And the team was obviously historically good. So we were wondering, like, okay, how much of this is just they played behind the Bruins defense and Bergeron and all that? Well, they're proving this year that they are the reason that the Boston Bruins are good. I mean, you look at Boston this season, and their 5-on-5 numbers in terms of expected goals allowed, they're right league average. I think they're 15th in the league. They're 16th in high danger chances allowed. They're 15th in scoring chances. They are a league average defense by just about every metric you can put up there. And yet they're tied for the best record in the NHL. And Ullmark has proven that he was not a one-year wonder. He's been awesome, and he hasn't even been the best goalie on his own team. Jeremy Swayman has been phenomenal. I was watching a Bruins game a couple weeks ago, and I thought, like, wow, I think Jeremy Swayman might be the best goalie in the NHL right now, just watching him play. And his stats back it up. He's third in goals saved above expected. I think he's top with Adin Hill, tied for a save percentage amongst qualified goalies. So to me, and I also think that you look at some of the guys above him, like a Cam Talbot. I love that Cam Talbot's playing the best hockey of his life right now. It's fun to watch, but he's up there. He's in his late 30s. He doesn't have a reliable backup, so he's going to play a lot of games. How long can he keep this up? Can Cam Talbot really do this as the workhorse for an entire 82-game season? I am skeptical. Whereas you look at Swayman's situation, he's playing behind a good team. He's got a great tandem. You know he's not going to get tired. He's going to play the correct amount of games. I think there's a lot to like about Jeremy Swayman, the way he has played and the way it sets up for the future. If you're looking at someone that's a little bit more of a long shot for an award, I think Swayman at 10-1 for Vezina is a great value.
If you were in charge of Team USA for a best on best tournament and you had to go play tomorrow, is Jeremy Swayman so good? He is part of the top 3 goalies for Team USA. We know Jake Ottinger's there. Who else is there?
Man, the U.S. goalies are so good. The U.S. goalies and the Russian goalies, it's unbelievable how stacked they are. I mean, we're talking like I honestly don't think Swayman is the top 3. I mean, because Hellebuck is there, Thatcher Demko, this U.S. goalie, they're stacked. I mean, Swayman, to me, he's right there with those two, but and Ottinger's up there. Oh my goodness, it is an embarrassment of riches in the crease for U.S. I think if I had to pick one, if we're playing a game tomorrow, I'm taking Connor Hellebuck. Just because his history and his consistency. But I think Swayman could be the best of the bunch. Ottinger could. It's Demko might be. He leads the league in goals saved above expected. Man, are there some good American goalies right now. It's fun to watch.
Man, your goaltending is an embarrassment of riches. Ours is an embarrassment. That's the difference.
Damn, why don't you go that far?
and the United States. Okay. Jesse, as always, my man, great to have you on the pod. Look, I guess this is it before the holiday. So I hope you and the family and everybody in your life has an amazing holiday season. And we look forward to connecting with you at some point here in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, guys. You as well. Thanks for having me.
There he goes. Jesse Granger joining us here. And by the way, boy, what a great debate to have about the Team USA goaltending guy. What a great question, because boy, I don't know which direction you would end up going.
It's a good question.
Okay. Here's another good question. What the hell was Peter Baugh doing on Sunday night? I want to share this tweet from Peter Baugh, right? Where basically he's covering the Avalanche game, right? So he's in the arena, and for reasons, I guess, unbeknownst to me, and maybe we should have just had this guy on the show because that would have helped. But Peter Baugh tweets out during the game, "I'm at a urinal, but someone just scored per the goal horn, 3-0 Avs." Now, look, I love context. I love adding a little bit of info. But there's something called TMI. What the hell did he feel the need to tell people I'm at a urinal? Just say.
Would you rather he tweeted this from the toilet instead, from a stall?
No. What's the point? What's the upside? What are you gaining from? And also, it makes you wonder, what do you mean you're at the urinal? Are you at the urinal with your phone out? Like,
Yeah, I tried not to think too deeply about when in the process of being in the bathroom he tweeted about this. My one thing is just as long as he washes his hands. Like using the phone at the urinal is already kind of not a great thing to do as it is. It's not the most sanitary thing to do. I just hope for this man's sake, before he left the bathroom, he washed his hands with soap. That's all I want.
we should have had him on the. We should have
We
had
should
him
have had him on the
podcast.
pod and talk about this. I've seen some grown folk go into these bathrooms, these public bathrooms, and not wash their hands, let alone not use soap. So I just hope for the sake of Peter Baugh that he did.
Was it not you? Now I'm blank. Sometimes I mess things up with the various people I've done shows with over the years. But was it not you that once said you saw an unnamed general manager use the facilities without
Yes.
washing his hands?
Yes,
It was you, right?
Yes. It was me. It was me who said that. Yes, I did say that. That. Yes, I'm not.
And one
going
day
to,
when you no. These are the stories you save for the end of your career when you write a book, a memoir. And you're like, I went in and this guy didn't wash his hands.
Yeah, man. I saw that man walk out and I was like, "Ugh, like really? Like ew." Come on. Wash your hands. It's not that hard. We just went through a pandemic. Wash your hands. Use soap. Like we're two grown men who don't need to repeat this to you, but clearly we do.
And don't tweet from a urinal.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
Like why would you do that?
Hey, some real positive news, and I'm really happy to see this. On Monday, Detroit Red Wings head coach Derek Lalonde confirming that Dylan Larkin will return to the lineup this evening on Monday against Anaheim. This is big. I mean, nobody wanted to see like what happened to Larkin about 10 days ago, Julian, was one of the most chilling, horrific things you could see at a hockey game. Nobody wants it. Nobody ever in any circumstance wants to see that. It's upsetting. It's jarring. And when he was down like that, I don't think any of us thought he would be able to come back within 10 days. So I'm super happy that this did not appear to be as serious as first felt. But great news. Detroit's getting their captain back. Dylan Larkin back in the mix on Monday.
Yeah, just you have it right there. I just looking back at that highlight and seeing him on the ice, very scary moment. We've talked a lot about it. We've talked a lot about the instances that were happening just as he was down on the ground. It was really scary to see him unconscious like that. So to see that he's healthy and back and available to play, I'm just happy for that.
Yeah, we're happy for Detroit fans. We're happy for Dylan Larkin. It's awesome to see. Let's wrap up with an email and a reminder. The Athletic Hockey Show at gmail.com is the way you can hit us up. The Athletic Hockey Show at gmail.com. Josh writes in, relatively new hockey fan here from the UK. Fell in love with the Maple Leafs on a trip to Toronto last year. You mentioned the World Cup of Hockey in a podcast recently. Just want to ask you guys a couple questions while I try to wrap my head around international hockey league. Mainly, why isn't there more dialogue between the NHL and the IIHF World Championships? Seems crazy to me that the IIHF would have their event overlap with the playoffs in the Stanley Cup, meaning we hardly ever get the chance to see the best in the world take on each other in national games. I just wonder who is benefiting from this arrangement. I follow soccer where the World Cup is the showpiece event. This all seems a bit crazy for me.
Yeah, I understand their point. I mean, we in Canada sort of take it for granted because our country has so many talented players that even in years where you're not going to see the absolute best players in the world in that tournament, they could still put together a roster of players who've missed the playoffs who are pretty good, and they can go out and win. They've done it a handful of times. They literally did it last year with a roster that had, just off the top of my head, Milan Lucic, Tyler Toffoli, Mackenzie Weegar, and those are just guys who were on the Calgary Flames last year. They won a world championship one year with Troy Stetcher and Andrew Mangiapane as the forefront. And I believe Gerard Gallant was the head coach of that team. I mean, I wonder if it has to do with certain breaks in the schedule for other European leagues where it works out for some of the other teams that are able to be built. But I feel as if this has not become a bigger topic, at least in Canada, because one, a lot of us are watching the Stanley Cup playoffs anyway, especially if teams in our respective markets are there. But also, Canada has not impeded Canada from putting out a solid roster at the World Championship.
I just wonder if we get back to the cycle of best on best every 2 years, meaning Olympics every 2 years and World Cup of Hockey every 2 years, will that effectively kill the IIHF, the Worlds that happen in May? From being a meaningful tournament?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't necessarily think so. I think any opportunity for guys to play for Team Canada, that's something you take, right? And that's something, maybe in terms of interest, it might still be the same, but as long as that avenue is there for players to step up and play for Canada at a tournament like this, I don't necessarily see it being killed, at least in terms of the interest of the players. And I don't know. I think it just has everything to do with that opportunity of representing the country, which, again, to my point, those tournaments in Canada, if you're a guy who is a good second line player, but would probably never make it on Team Canada at the Olympics or the World Cup, but you're still good enough to play on a World Championship team, that may be your one chance to do it at the senior level. I think you'll still see guys take up that chance. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. But look, all we want is more best on best. And
absolutely.
And we're not going to complain. Speaking of best on best, real quick, Elliot Friedman, we should point out, on Saturday night in the headline segment in Hockey Night in Canada, said, remember last week, Gary Bettman kind of made a low-key comment of, well, I don't know, that construction in Italy isn't happening at the pace we want it to happen. Well, according to Elliot, the construction has sort of ramped up in Milan. So maybe, just maybe, everything will be on track, hopefully, for the 2026 games. All right, that does it for the Monday pod, and you're going to get some well-deserved time off here next couple of days, right? So we're swapping you out. We're trading Julian MacKenzie for Mark Lazarus.
Oh, you get the loud American in my place.
Marks Lazarus, I believe, is the nickname. Mike Russo will pop by as well. So much to talk to you about the Minnesota Wild. We have not spoken to Russo since all of that stuff came out about Bill Guerin, investigations, all of that. Mike Russo will drop by the Tuesday pod. We are being told that the deal is 1-for-1. Julian MacKenzie for Mark Lazarus. Not even a draft pick.
Oh man. Oh, look, I hope you guys are cool with the value on that trade, man. I mean, 1-for-1's really tough.
Yeah, it's a 1-for-1 deal. This is like a Gidla for Nieuwendyk, though, where you're trading a promising future prospect in exchange for a grizzled win-now veteran.
Okay, that's fine.
That's
all right. It's not bag of pucks like what producer Jeff is trying to say in the chat. I definitely prefer the Iginla for Nieuwendyk comparison.
Yeah,
and not Tom Curvers for Scott Niedermayer. Producer Jeff is talking crazy right now. He's talking like a Butthurt Leafs fan right now.
Yeah, my goodness. All right,
yeah. How'd that trade work out for you, buddy? Curvers for Niedermayer. How'd that work out for you, buddy?
Jeez, that almost cost him Eric Lindros. But that's another story for another day. That does it, like I said, for the Monday edition of the pod. If you're looking to give that special someone a gift right now, we talked about 1 week away from Christmas. Why not a 1-year subscription to The Athletic? You can gift it to them for just $19.99 or a 2-year subscription for $39.99 when you visit theathletic.com/hockey show.
Peace.